Now for the sake of time, I've already opened and completed all 4 of the projects we're going to discuss in this video. But if I were to go through it each time with you, it would take a lot longer and I'd probably have to make 4 separate videos. So instead, I'm going to show you the finished product and do a quick explanation of how to do it. If there's anything you don't understand, leave a comment. I'd be happy to explain it further or make another video if I have to. Predominantly in this video, we're going to be using the layer style menu like I mentioned earlier. To open up the layer style menu, you double click on whatever layer you're trying to affect, and that's it. It's really simple. It's got a lot of different functionality here. We're going to explain pretty in depth how to use from here to here, but real quick, we're not really going to be using satin, color overlay, gradient overlay, or pattern overlay. They're very simple, and so I can explain them all to you really easily, but we're not really going to be using them in this video. For this specific image, the original image looked like this. Oh, excuse me. Like that. Planet Earth on a black background. You saw me use it in the basics video. It's a pretty simple image, pretty cool looking. High contrast, dark background, light foreground. Now, the space, I did not use the layer style menu. It's very simple. It takes 2 seconds to create this space. If you want to know how, I can explain that to you as well. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to keep it to the layer style menu. Okay, so we have our planet Earth right there. Now how do we turn this into this? Very simply. All you have to do, double click your layer styles menu. All we're going to use in this one is inner shadow. Remove inner shadow. Looks like this. You see all the pixels around the edge here? We need to remove those first because we're using high contrast images. Again, dark background, bright foreground. To remove that, when we turned on inner shadow, the first thing we did was change the blend mode to multiply. That's going to darken everything in the image, and it's going to even out the contrast values, so that way there's nothing too harsh, except for in the center here. But we want it to be harsh in the center, because that's where all the light from the sun is coming in. If there's some more problems over in this edge here, you can always erase that, but you know how to do that because I explained that in the tools section of the first videos. Alright, so how this works, inner shadow, change the blend mode. Opacity, which you see over here as well, means transparency. The difference between opacity and fill is opacity does not affect the image. All it does is lower or increase the transparency so you can or cannot see through it. For the sake of this, we want to see through our shadow because we want to see the dark side of the Earth, but only barely. So you mess with that until you get something you like. Angle is based on light values. If you've ever drawn or done any painting, you know light sources are very important for the consistency of your work. Photoshop does all the work for you as far as light sources are concerned, so you don't really have to worry. As you can see, I can change exactly where my shadow is located, but like I said, I wanted it somewhere in this plane. Distance, choke, and size increases and decreases how far into your object it travels. It also increases the consistency of it, similar to opacity, except on the edges here. Around the edges, it's going to make it thicker. It's going to make it sharper. It could still be see-through, but the line could be a very sharp line. I want it to kind of fade in, so that's why the choke is lowered. However, the size is increased. So you mess with it, find something you like, and you're done. Okay, starting up where we left off, the third part here, lasers, sabers, and glowy things. This is very simple. I made it look cooler just with positioning and density and things like that. But if you remove all 3 of these lasers, then you just have your basic lightsaber. Okay? Now the way I did the lightsaber is pretty simple. First off, you're going to want to press U and go to your shape tool. Click on line. Now based on your background to how small it is, I made this background 8 inches tall by 12 inches wide. So I chose a weight or a density of 16 pixels. It's that thick for the line. Okay? Now the color, I've already got all the glowing effects set up. So actually I'm going to create a new layer and start over. That way you can see from scratch because this one's really quick. Alright, whatever. Change the color inside here, or it's up here as well. You change it depending on if you're doing a lightsaber, or no matter what glow you're going to do, depending on the color of your glow, you want to change this to be in that range. So let's say we want to do like a purple. We're going to do like a very, very, very light, like almost white, just about white, right up there, but of the same color, so it's got a slight tint to it. Okay? Then we're going to add outer glow and inner glow. So remember, we talked about the shadow already, inner shadow. We talked about bevel emboss, contour, texture, all that. We talked about the color overlays, all these. So all that's left are the outer glows and the drop shadow. Outer glow, inner glow, and drop shadow. Okay. Basically, outer glow, inner glow, blend mode's always going to be normal. Inner glow, you're going to change the color. You saw how the inside was right there. Move it out just a little bit so it's got a slightly darker color because it's going to fade in. Alright? But for purple, remember we wanted something like that color. Softer, have it come from the edge and go into the center instead of center out. Choke, like we said, that increases like the density of it, but not the transparency. And size goes how far into the object it travels. It falls under the same principle that inner shadow does. Alright, I'm going to need to make these effects visible, otherwise you're not going to see them. Okay, so you see we got a little bit of a purple glow, but there's still a bright white at the very center. Outer glow, all I'm doing now is changing the color because I already had a preset for the blue, but we want the purple, whatever color purple we want. I'm going to go more, maybe a little bit darker, kind of more of an evil purple. In fact, I'm going to change this color to a little bit darker as well, just because it just makes it match more. Alright, we want to rasterize the layer. Right click, rasterize, so that way there's not that weird like line around it. And the only other thing I did to this, as you can see here, it's a little bit rounded. There are a lot of different ways to do that. You can use the marquee tool. The quickest way would just be use erase. Press E, go to your eraser tool, and then just kind of barely tamper with the edges. Now the thing you got to change about it that I'm not doing here is you got to change your hardness on your eraser, so that way it doesn't remove too much. But as you'll see, as you erase it, it lowers the glow level with it because you already have the glow settings assigned to the layer, not specifically the object. That's because we rasterized the layer. If you had not rasterized the layer, it would be assigned to the object, so if I had erased that part, it would still be glowy up here. But see, if I run an eraser right through the center, it's still going to be glowing. See that? Alright. There you go. That's the lightsaber, glow, whatever. Again, you can pick it up and flip it over. And there you go. Put it at an angle. Make it a little smaller. Bang, bang. Now you got a laser beam. Or a laser bolt coming from a blaster or something.